There are places that cannot be charted, not because they are hidden, but because they move with time, with memory, with need. Lake Mirrowen was one such place. It didn't belong to any country or region. It didn't appear on satellite images or in old sailors' logs. It wasn't whispered about in travel blogs or folk tales passed around campfires. Yet those who needed it most found it, not through maps, but through dreams. It lay at the end of the softest path, in the quietest part of a very old world, nestled beyond fern groves and starlit meadows, surrounded by a forest that seemed to sleep with its eyes open. At its heart there shimmered a lighthouse, but not above the lake, as one might expect. Beneath it, its lantern glowed from underwater, a soft pulse, almost like a heartbeat, visible only at dusk or in moments of profound stillness. Few had seen it, fewer still had entered. And on a windless, whispering evening, a traveler named Elian stepped out of the thickets and found himself at the lake's edge, unsure how he'd arrived, but certain he was meant to be there. Elian wasn't fleeing. He had no grand crisis to escape, no drama, no disaster. Just an ache of the soul, perhaps the slow, humming kind of tired that builds over months or years until even sleep no longer helps. The world around him had become too sharp, too digital, too domain. He missed softness, space, time that flowed like tea, warm and unhurried. So he packed lightly, a long wool coat, a small notebook with half-scribbled thoughts, a thermos of peppermint tea, and a stone. The stone was old, smooth, and gray, with a spiral carved into it by hand, a gift from someone whose face he couldn't recall, but whose presence lived faintly in his bones. He walked until the road gave way to trail, until the trail gave way to silence. Then, suddenly, there it was. Lake Mirrowen. Round as a mirror, still as breath, lit by the faint glow of a structure deep beneath its surface. The lake was quiet, but not empty. Elian stepped closer, feeling no fear, only an unraveling, a loosening of everything. He didn't realize he'd clenched. A small boat floated by the shore, anchored to nothing, bobbing just once as if in greeting. He stepped in. The water accepted him. No need for oars, no need for force. The boat moved, as if guided by thought, drifting slowly toward the light that pulsed beneath the water's surface. As he drew nearer, the lake changed. Its surface no longer reflected the sky, it reflected him, not his face, but his thoughts, moments, feelings, and there, beneath the water, a round door, glass and shimmer and glow. As the boat stilled, the lake parted, opening not like a wound, but like a sigh. A light rose, spiraling, and in it a doorway. Waiting. Welcoming. Asterisk. He stepped forward, not diving, not descending, simply shifting, gently, like walking from one dream into another. The air inside the lighthouse was thick with warmth. It smelled of salt, old books, and the faint sweetness of lavender. The interior spiraled downward like a conch shell. Floating lanterns lined the walls, orbs of golden light that pulsed slowly, patiently, as if breathing. A sign above the staircase read, "Welcome to the memory light. Time is softer here. You may rest. You may remember. You may return." As he placed his hand on the glass railing, it vibrated faintly, like a harp string, touched gently in passing. Elian descended, each step making him feel lighter, not weightless, but relieved, like laying down something you forgot you were carrying. Asterisk. At the base of the spiral was a round room, wide and dim, its walls made entirely of shelves. No two books were the same. They weren't labeled with titles, but with symbols, raindrops, suns, moons, feathers, footprints, sleeping foxes, open palms, spirals. Elian chose a book marked with a simple wave. When he opened it, a warm breeze stirred, and he remembered clearly, achingly, a beach from his childhood, his father's quiet laughter, the smell of seaweed and sunscreen, the feeling of being small and entirely safe. Another book bore a spiral, just like his stone. He opened it and saw not a memory, but a dream, one he hadn't had since he was 9 years old, flying not fast, not high, but slowly above glowing hills, while lanterns floated alongside him. The books weren't stories. They were his, not created, but collected, waiting for him to be still long enough to return. Asterisk behind him, a soft sound, like the exhale of a candle just before it dims. Elian turned. A figure stood in the doorway, tall, cloaked in silver linen, eyes closed, but not blind, merely resting. The keeper held a lantern, pale blue, which shimmered with no flame. "You've remembered enough to be here," the keeper said, their voice woven from warmth and night air. Elian didn't answer. He didn't need to. The keeper gestured to a shallow bowl in the center of the room, filled with silvery water. "This holds your weight," they said, "the kind no one can see. You may leave it if you choose." Elian stepped forward. The water stirred, revealing an image, his own reflection. Yes, but heavier. His eyes were dimmer, his shoulders stooped. He looked as he'd felt for years. Elian reached into his coat, removed the spiral stone, and dropped it into the basin. The image shimmered, then cleared. The keeper smiled and led Elian through a narrow hallway lined with soft tapestries. It opened into a series of circular chambers, quiet, warm, and lit by nothing but stardust drifting across the ceiling. "These are the rooms where sleep comes first," the keeper said. "Dreams follow, but only the ones you're ready to meet." Elian stepped into a room with walls the color of dusk, a low bed weighted, wide, round, and blanketed in cloud-like quilts. No alarms, no clocks, no worries, just rest. He lay down. The ceiling faded into a sky he had once known in a dream. And as he closed his eyes, the last thing he heard was not the keeper's voice, but his own. "It's okay now." He dreamed of underwater cities, not dark or strange, but warm and aglow. He walked through glass tunnels where fish swam like stars. He visited temples made of fog. He danced barefoot on spirals carved in stone floors. In every dream, he was lighter, not younger, not different, just free. No voices told him what to do. No memories chased him. Only the sound of waves above, and the slow light of the lighthouse pulsing even in the deepest dark. When Elian woke, the room hadn't changed. But he had. He rose slowly, not because he was tired, but because he was peaceful. The keeper waited at the door, hands folded, eyes still closed. "You've left what needed leaving," they said. Elian nodded. The spiral staircase welcomed him once more, its floating lanterns, now blinking slowly. "In thanks. Not goodbye, but gratitude," dotted the surf. The rowboat rocked gently. The lake shimmered. As Elian stepped in. The boat drifted on its own, the lake guiding him once again. When Elian returned to the world, to its clocks and corners, its messages and mornings, nothing looked terribly different, but everything had changed. He still walked the same streets, still passed the same windows, still sat at the same desk with the same coffee in the same favorite mug. But where once there had been dullness, now there was softness. Where there had been urgency, now there was breath. He no longer flinched at silence. He no longer filled empty moments with noise. He welcomed the pauses, even cherished them. He moved slower, not sluggish, but deliberate, present, grounded, like someone no longer trying to outrun the day. And people noticed. Strangers smiled back. Old friends called more often. Children gravitated toward him with the kind of instinct only young hearts possess. But Elian didn't speak much of the lighthouse, not because it wasn't real, but because it was too real, the kind of real that lives beyond explanation. He had learned something there, something quiet and precious, and some truths are too sacred for telling. Still, on certain nights, when the wind hummed low and the stars blinked a little slower, he would sit by the window and sip a mug of tea, peppermint, as always, and fill it. The glow dotted wasn't bright. It didn't beam or blaze. It simply pulsed softly in the space between heartbeats. A memory, yes, but also a presence. A reminder that rest is not earned. It is deserved. That stillness is not empty. It is full. That peace is not an escape. It is a homecoming. He began writing letters not to people, but to moments. Moments he'd forgotten. Moments he wished to honor. To the breeze that made the trees dance on that lonely walk home. Thank you. To the lullaby I half remember from my childhood. I hear you. To the version of me that kept going all those years. You can rest now. He slipped the notes into books at cafes, left them tucked under stones in parks, scrawled them in the margins of library copies, and returned them with care. He never signed them, but in every one, he drew the same thing, a spiral. Sometimes the ache returned, that old, heavy ache, the feeling of too much, too fast, too loud. But now he knew what to do. He'd close his eyes, he'd listen, and deep beneath the surface of his being, he'd feel it, the lighthouse, still pulsing, still welcoming, still watching over the quiet places inside him. And on those nights, the long ones, the restless ones, he would imagine the lake again, still, wide, waiting, and somewhere beneath it, a soft, unwavering light.